I'll call the meeting of the McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Today is a continuation of a hearing that we had last month. It's for application 2023-051. We were at the point in the hearing where we were starting to take public testimony, starting with the staff. Anyone who was here previously and took the oath, you're still under oath from that first hearing, but if you were not here last month and you are here today and you are going to want to be able to speak, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand so I could swear you in. Do you affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. So we'll continue where we left off, and we will get the report from staff regarding this petition. I'll turn it over to Ms. Kurtzman.
Okay, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Anna Kurtzman, and I am the senior planner for McHenry County. The application that is before you today is 2023-051. It is for renewal of conditional use permit 2013-046 to allow earth extraction and adding a ready mixed batch plant in the existing A1 agricultural zoning district. As noted, the A1 has a conditional use permit on it already. The subject property is 111 acres and is located on the west side of Maple Street, approximately 1,475 feet south of Maple Street and West Coral Road in Riley Township. The property is on three sides, has A1 zoning associated with it. To the west, the A1 also has conditional use permits for two different gravel pit operations. To the east, there is an E2 subdivision and an R1 subdivision. There's also a number of residents to the north of that R1 subdivision in an A1 district. The land use in this area, as I noted, there is the existing gravel facilities to the west, agricultural to the north and to the south, and residential to the east. The future land use designation for this property is agricultural, as well as to the north, south, and west. To the east is listed as estate. There are a number of conditions that staff did recommend, all based off of the original conditional use permit from 2013, with the exception of the very last one where it's recommending that the owner and or operator erect a sign at the exit of the property, reminding truck operators to adhere to the truck routes.
Can you stop stacking? I can't hear you.
Said sign shall be erected within 3 months of issuance of an operations permit and shall remain clearly visible during the duration of this conditional use permit. This condition was recommended by the staff plat review committee. Do need to note that we did receive an email that came in last night. This email is from Christine Mordock, and she indicates that she resides at 2418 Delks Drive. That email was forwarded to the zoning board and to the applicant earlier today. Paper copies are in front of you. I believe that concludes my report.
Any members of the board have questions? Go ahead, Charlie.
Just a couple of questions. One, are there any conditions specific to the concrete batch plant that our staff is proposing?
No.
And my second question is, during the, to the best of your knowledge, during the existence of this conditional use, has the petitioner been cited for violations of any kind?
No,
Or has he at other facilities that he may own been cited for violations?
no citations I'm aware of.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Cozen?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Has any comment been received by Marengo or any other governmental unit relative to this petition?
I do not recall one being submitted.
Just for clarity, who has the maintenance responsibility for Maple Street?
That would be the township.
As to condition number 28, the truck route,
28 is lighting. You mean 30?
28 is the new one, and we only have 28 in our report on
yes.
Oh, I apologize. Oh, that's because, okay, I remember what happened. So your report, the conditions are an error, and I provided you with new conditions at the last meeting.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the correct ones are up on the screen there.
Gotcha.
And I believe since you were talking about the truck traffic,
Right, the truck route. I'll
The truck route?
rephrase it then.
okay, go ahead.
So in terms of condition number 30, would the sheriff be able to enforce a violation of that sign, or do we have an opinion on that, or is that something that would be given consideration?
That would be, the sign would be placed on the private property,
Yes.
so the sheriff's office does not enforce signage on private property.
Right.
It would be my responsibility as the staff liaison, when I do my annual visits, to ensure that the sign is up,
Right.
which I do with other mine locations.
I understand, but the enforcement, so if a truck were not to stay on the route, would that be a private commercial a condition of the?
It would be a difficult condition to enforce.
I have no further questions.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yes, if I may, there was just a misstatement made here in regards to
Did
number
we get it from
codes.
Riley Township?
Maple Street is a county highway at
Okay.
at that section, not Riley Township.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members have questions of the staff report? Does the petitioner have any questions?
Just a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
Anna, if a property owner nearby was to call the zoning office to ask what the zoning of the subject property is, what would you tell them?
A1C,
And the C would mean what?
conditional use permit
And the conditional use permit would be for what?
for mine extraction.
And he would say that to someone who
Yes.
called? Okay.
Yes.
And then relative to your knowledge of the number of existing pits that are located in the county, unincorporated McHenry County, how many is that?
8.
And is that down from a much larger number, let's say 15, 20 years ago?
I believe the answer is yes to that.
Thank you.
And Anna, I just have a question on number 27, the well that would be installed on parcel number 300-004.
Correct. Okay.
That exception, is that the, where's that on the plat of survey? I just want to know where that is.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, that is the 5-acre tract that is part of that C.
That's on the west side of the road. It's where the little cutout is that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking it was, but I wasn't sure.
I believe that is correct.
Okay. And that addresses that neighbor's concerns.
I believe so.
And Madam Chairman, one other question for Anna, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. Anna, just one other question then. You know, relative to your experience in McHenry County and enforcing the groundwater monitoring and reviewing those records, do you have any experience with any mines in the county based on mining activity having any problems with groundwater to neighboring properties?
So the 3 years that I've been doing this now.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions, then at this time, the public will have their opportunity to make their statement regarding this hearing. So I want to remind you again that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's not a rally, there's no clapping, there's no yelling. You're respectful of each other, we're respectful of your time, you're respectful of the board. You get 3 minutes, and I'll time you on my phone at the end of your 3 minutes. If you have other questions, and someone else will have to, or not questions, this is not a time for questions. Questions were asked at the last hearing. This is a time for your statement, only your statement as to what you feel about this petition. And I would ask that you not just be really repetitive so that you can say, I agree with so-and-so what they said, rather than restating everything. We want to get through so that everybody has a chance to speak. So again, let me get my timer ready. You'll have to come up to the front and give us your name and address, and I'll start my timer and you'll be able to make your statement. So anybody who would like to, yes, ma'am, go ahead. You get to be the first.
Yeah, why not, right?
Sure, why not?
My name is Teresa Carriezes. I live at 20506 Delks Drive in Marengo. I can see my picture of my house from there. Okay. I stand before you to voice my strong opposition to the gravel mining and ready mix cup applications. After an exhaustive search for the perfect home and investing our life savings, we chose this area for its natural beauty and tranquility. We joke that there's more noise inside our house than outside. Today, I must address the devastating impact this project would have on the lives of us and our community, particularly regarding noise. Let me speak plainly about what we're facing. The proposed operation would run from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday with trucks passing every 6 minutes. This isn't just about occasional disturbance, it's about constant industrial noise that will fundamentally change our lives. According to recent health studies, chronic noise exposure puts people at heightened risk of hypertension and serious health conditions. The sound test performed by Dr. Thunder raises serious concerns. Dr. Thunder's expertise lies in cochlear implants, not industrial noise assessment. EPA standards identified 45 decibels that are appropriate for residential areas, yet mining operations typically generate 85 decibels. An 8-foot berm is useless. Furthermore, Dr. Thunder's computer-generated data fails to account for our prevailing westward winds, which will carry noise and dust directly to our homes. Consider this: chronic noise and dust environmental noise exposure leads to sleep disturbance, which we've had lots of lately, increased stress, and various adverse health effects. As a survivor of adenocarcinoma of the appendix, a cancer affecting the body's filtering organ, I am particularly vulnerable to environmental pollutants, to the point of death. The constant sound of crushers, reversing machines, heavy equipment would make it impossible to find peace, even inside our homes. Beyond the noise itself, this industrial operation threatens our property values and groundwater quality and supply. As the petitioner stated, the water flows from east to west. Is there now a possibility of our pond or a well being drained as a potential use from this petitioner's over 1.5 million gallons annually? But most critically, it would strip away the very reason we chose to live here, our peaceful and beautiful environment. Honestly, we would not have purchased this home if a mining operation was occurring. The proposed operations would transform our peaceful residential area into an industrial zone, with noise levels far exceeding what's considered safe for residential use. I urge you, the zoning board, and the elected officials to listen to this community and do what's right. The health risk and financial impact to over 180 families is simply not comparable to the financial gain of one petitioner. Once you approve this cup, you cannot undo the damage to our community, our homes, and our values and our health. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. We'll kind of go by row, if that's okay, and we'll work our way there.
Can I distribute a map to the board?
Sure.
Just a single page, if you guys don't mind, just taking one and passing it along. Sure. You can just take it out. I'm upset.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I've got two.
Oh, that's it.
I got extras.
Thank you.
And may I have one?
Yes.
Here's, oh, you got two? Cool. Yeah, over there if we need more. All right. My name is Tim Vincent. I live at 8819 South Hill Road. This map I distributed you, I just wanted to point out, there's been a lot of maps, a lot of deliverables here. As you can see on the left side of that map, the red outline, that's the property in question. Then you see a multitude of blue dots. Every blue dot on that map is a home. It's a family. It's us that live here. All the little, squares, the boxes and all that, it doesn't do it justice. Every single dot on there is a family. There's over 180 of them. So the impact of this is not just to an industrial area, farmland, whatever it might be. And the reason why I wanted to show you guys, there's a scale on there, but Teresa mentioned westward winds. We have prevailing westward winds all the time. Down south side of Marengo, it's always windy. 10, 15 mile an hour winds are normal. 40 mile per hour gusts is very common. Some of the research I did on a ready mix plant and how harmful that is, the dust that can be kicked up, the dust that can be carried. Silica, everybody talks about silica. There's a multitude of OSHA sources on this. I actually sent an email to the board with cited peer-reviewed sources, links. But silica, known carcinogen, known to cause asthma in children. There's plenty of us that have children that are outside playing, barbecuing, playing catch, whatever it might be, daily. So also black carbon is another one. Black carbon can be carried in the air as well. Known carcinogen, American Lung Association points it out as being carcinogen and causing asthma in adolescents. And then the last one being nitrogen dioxide, it's a gas byproduct of the process. Again, horrible thing. American Lung Association has multiple articles on how terrible that is and the issues it can cause. I don't have time here to go into all the details, but I have, again, those sources were in my email cited. And then just moving on, obviously the dust. So the one article that I cited, it states silica is 100 times smaller than sand. So it takes just a 12 mile per hour wind to carry the silica 5,000 feet. That's almost a mile. So as you can see the scale on there, we have winds starting that all the time. This dust is going to be carried. It's going to be in our lives. We won't be able to get away from it. And this is just the ready mix side. I'm not talking the mining side. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on is, once this property is sold, this conditional use permit is going to whatever large company buys it. So all of this small town, little family-run business stuff is great, but as soon as this property is turned around and sold, all that's out the window. It sounds great, but the property owner could be long gone and we're left with what's left. So I hope you take my comments and really understand, we're just regular people, taxpayers, residents. We're just trying to live our lives. So the financial gain of one guy is not comparable to, the health financial impacts to 180 families. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're next, right after him, okay?
My concern is the
Okay.
trucks.
I'm sorry, you have to come up
Oh,
and
I'm
state
sorry.
your name and your
Kathy
address.
Anderson, 20411 West Coral Road. The trucks. Maple Street and 23 are parallel, 1 mile apart. Route 23 is populated with heavy industry. Ozinga Cement, Consolidated Materials with mining, gravel, crushed concrete. Prairie Material Aggregate, mining, gravel, crushed stone. Peter Baker Asphalt. All of these put out heavy trucks with heavy loads. Because these drivers are paid by the load, they are often speeding and aggressive. But on these same roads, we also have slow-moving farm equipment and school buses. And now Gavers wants to add 60 more trucks every day. The intersection at Maple and Coral has had 7 crashes with injuries, plus 1 fatality in recent years, and it is currently being studied for safety issues by the Department of Transportation, including a possible roundabout. These trucks will not slow down for a roundabout. They will just move over to Harmony Road and double the traffic there. Harmony Road has residences on both sides of the road, and with one more complication, it's curved. And in some places, you can't see around the bend. The people there are already at great risk getting out of their driveways. We don't need more mining, we don't need more cement or asphalt, and we don't need more trucks.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Carmen Tucci. I have 2 properties. I have a home at 2419 Delks Drive and a property behind me, 9115 South Hill. Both are approximately 500 feet away from Maple Street. We plan on building a new home for my daughter, who's already invested everything they have into this property to get a family started there. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the levels of arsenic in our well water. Chronic exposure to arsenic is associated with increased risk of various cancers, skin, lung, bladder, and liver cancer, just to name a few. Prenatal exposure to inorganic arsenic causes adverse pregnancy outcomes and children's health problems. In men, inorganic arsenic causes reproductive dysfunction, including reduction of the testes, sperm count, and testosterone. I had my water tested by Pace Analytical Services, which is a nationwide water testing laboratory. They have locations in Crystal Lake and Peoria. My water test, which is pulled from the same aquifer as many people in this community, came back with an arsenic level of 7.4 UGL. The EPA regulation for arsenic in drinking water is 10 UGL. The EPA also has a public health goal of 0 UGLs. We are 25% away from a drinking water disaster, and we have less mines right now. We're less mines, and the number's going up. I have a natural resources information report from Maple Valley Materials. There are at least 5 times mentioned in this report that the area is highly sensitive to contamination. Twice it is mentioned that the area is high value for agricultural use. And once in big bold letters, it is a concern for endangered species on the site. I also have McHenry County Sensitive Aquifer Recharge Map, which shows that we are all living in a highly sensitive recharge area. This water that we use is threatened by not only the proposed usage of a concrete batch plant, but also threatened by the digging and extraction of gravel. Gravel mining may seem like a straightforward industrial activity, but it comes with hidden risks, especially to our most vital resource, which is water. Scientific research has shown that gravel mining can disturb natural arsenic deposits in rocks and soil. When these materials are exposed to water, arsenic, a known carcinogen, is a toxic substance that can and is leaching into our aquifer and contaminating our water supply. As I search through this information on this topic, I continue to become more and more concerned with the proposal that is on the table. There is information for all of us to see all over the internet, and I can't imagine a situation where we already know that we have a groundwater contamination. We know the areas are highly sensitive, yet we consider adding to the contamination and risk. We live in a community that is a community of families, children, and grandchildren. It is detrimental to our health to reject this proposal. It is inconceivable, given the information that we all have, that we can make a decision to contribute to water contamination and the spread of a known carcinogen, arsenic, which is fueled by excavation. I'm just about done, 2 more sentences. We cannot afford to gamble with the water. Once the damage is done, it's our community, not the mining company, that will bear the long-term costs. Finally, this is the water that we feed our animals, our gardens, and our bodies. It is the water we bathe in. We are already 75% contaminated.
That's more than 2 sentences.
According to the goals of the Environmental
You've
Protection
had your
Agency,
time,
are
sir.
urgent to protect our communities' health and future by rejecting the proposal. The health
Next.
risk to over 180 families is simply not comparable to
Sir,
the financial
your
gain
time
of the
is
petitioner.
up. I ask anyone else to honor the 3-minute time limit. If not, you're going to have to leave. We have to be respectful of everybody. You're each getting 3 minutes, and when your 3 minutes is up, I expect you to sit down, give your paper to someone else.
Can someone give their time to us?
You can
someone
give your
yield their
paper
time?
to someone else, but you cannot continue to just talk. This is not your hearing. This is the public hearing. Everyone has 3 minutes.
Ma'am, the question was, can we yield our time to someone else in the room?
To let them keep speaking.
No, you can stand up. He can give you the paper
Okay.
and you can speak,
Thank
and you'll have your 3 minutes.
And then, Madam Chair,
Yes.
just to let you know I did ask facilities to come up so that the back wall can be removed so people can have a place to
good.
sit.
Good.
When they come, it will be noisy for a few moments, so you may want to pause the hearing
Okay.
when that happens.
Okay. And then also anyone else who came in after I asked you to be sworn in, if you intend to talk, then I'll have to swear you in before you speak.
And also, if you haven't already, please sign in. Okay.
Okay.
I'm Beth McKinney, and I live at 20307 West Coral Road, Marengo. In the previous meeting, I asked Mr. Gavers what the daily water usage would be for a ready mix plant, because there is concern about the water for 30 trucks. He estimated about 3,000 gallons of water per day. So I looked into that. The numbers I found are based on research of the National Ready Mix Concrete Association, Carbon Cure Technologies, and Cardaway Concrete Systems. It was not consistent with this estimate. For cleaning, the average truck can use 30 to 800 gallons of water for one truck per day just for cleaning alone. The average cited in a survey conducted by Cardaway Concrete Systems for the US and Canada is 226 gallons per day. So to get an idea of what that is, if you had a pallet of 45 5-gallon buckets that were filled with water, that's the 226 gallons. So it's a lot of water. To make concrete, each truck would also use 300 to 600 gallons of water per load. The per day use for 30 trucks would be approximately 10,000 to 78,000 gallons per day. Based on the averages for the industry, it would likely be over 20,000 per day, which is 120,000 gallons per week, and over 500,000 gallons per month. This translates into over 6.3 gallons of water use per year, but it could be as much as 24 million, depending on how they clean the drums. So even the best case scenario is a 200% increase over Mr. Gavers' estimate in the last meeting. The average use for US and Canada is 581% increase over his estimate. And worst case scenario, assuming he doesn't sell the property to a company that uses even more and has more trucks, would be an even higher level of production. And that would be 2,506% increase over water usage. So based on this information, I would like to respectfully recommend that this committee decline Mr. Gavers' request for not only a ready mix plant, but honestly, I'd like to see a conditional use just out of the window and just have it go back to agriculture so that the future integrity of the sensitive aquifer recharge area is preserved. So that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, Madam Chair, I do see facilities is here, so if we could pause the hearing for just a few moments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Like I said, sit under you, Steve. Sit under you.
When are we starting this road?
No, we're waiting for him to open the wall up so that other people can sit, and then we'll continue with the comments. We're just taking a little break so that everyone can hear when the comments are started.
So it does look like the facilities management is just about finished with opening up the wall. Anyone who is currently standing, if you would like to have a seat in the back there, please feel free to have a seat. It appears that they are just about ready.
Before we start up again, I will just ask anyone who came in late, if you were not here last time and you would like to speak, I would like to swear you in. Is there anyone here that came late that was not here last time? Okay, so just raise your right hand and I'll swear you in. Do you affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Thank you. Well, we'll continue on now. Yes, sir. If you'd like to come up and speak, you get 3 minutes to state your cause.
Hello, my name is Steve Bauman. I live at 8408 Maple Street. Our home is right adjacent of the entrance of the proposed gravel pit. I'd like to speak on some of the concerns that were found. This is the McHenry-Lake County Soil and Water Conservation District report that was issued on January 3rd, 2024 regarding this property. And here's some of the concerns that we found that we have issue with. One of the first concerns is related to the aquifer and the aquifer recharge areas. Of the 112 acres of the property, 110 acres is considered a high aquifer, considered a high aquifer contamination potential. That is almost 100% of the parcel. 96 acres are designated as sensitive aquifer recharge, which is 86% of the parcel. Contaminants from any source can move rapidly through sand and gravel deposits to wells and nearby streams, which there are. There are also 2 potential wetland areas, one within the northwest corner of the parcel and one along the western boundary in the central portion of the parcel. Another concern found in the report were the drain tiles on the parcel. Drain tiles could be damaged by operations and may return original hydrologic conditions to all the areas that drained through the tile, ranging from less than 1 acre to many square miles from the property. Another concern is more than half of the parcel has been identified as prime farmland soils. Agricultural is the best property that McHenry County has. And this report states it's prime farmland. Also, on the paperwork here, the zoning change is listed as earth extraction only. There's no message or any writing of the concrete ready mix on this report. Also, our concern is the effect of the private ponds along Maple Street and the lake between Demings Drive and Delks Drive. Mining can stir up sediment which may flow into these ponds, lakes, reducing water clarity, reducing oxygen levels in the water, disrupting the habitat life of the aquatic species like fish, frogs, and plants. The new mining can also alter the natural flow of groundwater and surface water, resulting in changes in the water level. This area of McHenry County is already in a drought condition, has been for several years. The water levels of the ponds and lakes are already lower than normal, and the mining will decrease water levels even more. Those properties with private ponds will have an even greater reduction in property value, as no one wants a property with a muddy hole where there should be a pond. And finally, I'd like to say that the health and financial risk to over 180 of these families is simply not comparable to the financial gain of one petitioner. Thank you.
Good job.
Come on up, sir.
Can I just get here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hi, members of the board. My name is Ryan Weinberg. I live at 8909 South Hill Road. I moved there about 1.5 years ago. Just a couple things. These places are unsafe. Studies show that. I went door to door on a Sunday with my wife to the ready mix plant in Woodstock. And I asked those people how they felt about a ready mix plant in their backyard. Not one person had something positive to say. One individual actually said, to your point, ma'am, the truck traffic is so bad where he is that he had to teach his little kids to catch the attention of the truck drivers by waving. In the 1.5 years I've lived in Marengo, I leave at about 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning. At least twice, I've seen trucks turned over on their side at the roundabout at 23 and I-90. Would you want this type of facility across the street from your home and your family? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
No.
Whichever of you wants to go, the other one can go afterwards.
I'll talk about your property value.
Tony's gonna go after.
Oh, okay. Hi,
Hi.
my name is Tony Curiazis. I live across the street from the site. I've been a full-time realtor for 32 years. I've prepared hundreds of appraisals. I specialize in assessing property values. This is a copy of the petitioner's $3.5 million listing sheet, which was on the market for a year. I'm only going to read one line from it. The value lies in the ability to mine. I repeat, his words, the value lies in the ability to mine. The number one question to ask the petitioner under oath is, does he have a buyer contingent upon receiving this cup? Is there a contract on the property? Because whatever the promises are, such as how many trucks there'll be, how little noise, how great the air, and well, water quality will be, it just doesn't matter. Once it's approved and he sells to someone else, all those promises are out the window, as somebody else mentioned. The new owner could have hundreds of trucks. Even if he does not have a buyer, his intent is clear to sell the property. It's clear. And get you to raise the price of his agricultural land for him while crippling the value of our homes. You were told the property values would not fall. Come on, give me a break, guys. Any thinking person knows that if you drop a new concrete plant across the street from a $500,000 or $700,000 home, its value will absolutely plummet. You were being deceived and you knew it. This is not Highway 23, it's Maple Street. It's a street. Studies show that property values will fall between 10 and 30% depending on their proximity. Russ's property value, the guy in the 5 acres, would absolutely be devastated if in fact I could even get a buyer to get out of the car. They won't even stop, they'll say keep going. Who wants a truck rumbling past your bedroom window every 6 minutes? Would you guys? I don't think so. The 12 homes on Maple Street would collectively lose $1.4 million in value. The 20 other homes in the subdivision, described in the 2030 plan as 1 acre estates, would lose about $1.6 million. Where are estates located next to a freaking mining operation? My own property, about $125,000 would be devalued. There are lots for sale with people currently building. They have no idea. And I know you're gonna say buyer beware. They just have no idea. These are people just like you and me, and these families who look to the equity in their homes for things like college tuition, elder care, and retirement. We're talking about millions of dollars in property value being shifted from dozens of families to one man's pocket. We're asking you to protect us from this harm. 20 years ago, this board denied the same request from the same petitioner. You voted it down unanimously, 7-0. Here's a quote from that decision.
Give someone else here.
I'll finish up.
Here's a quote from that decision. Right?
You have to give your name and address, sir,
I
and then
will.
you can finish.
20 years
Yeah,
ago, the
go
board
ahead.
denied.
My name is Joel Curiazis, I'm the son. I live at 20506 Delks. So 20 years ago, this board denied the same request from the same petitioner. You voted it down unanimously 7-0. Here's a quote from that decision. The board felt the location of this type of use was more appropriate in an industrial area. This use may impact surrounding property owners. Today, there are even more property owners that would be impacted. Please reject this concrete plant like you did 20 years ago, only this time in its entirety, and let the next owner make their own petition. Okay, and then I have my own here. So like I said, my name is Joel Curiazis, I live at 20506 Delks. I study forestry at the College of Natural Resources at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. I live 119 yards from the proposed site, and I could list minutes worth of reasons why this proposal would disrupt the fragile ecosystem of the Kishwaukee River watershed, how it will interfere with the breeding of migratory birds such as geese and sandhill cranes, which are federally protected, or the effects it can have on air, noise, and light pollution. However, since I only have 3 minutes, or now 2.5, I would like to ask you all a few questions to think about as I continue. So do you walk your dog? Do you enjoy riding your bike in your neighborhood? Do you ever sit on your deck and gaze into the distance? Maybe even capture a picture or two for Facebook? Do you have kids, grandkids, nieces, or nephews who play in your yard? Now I ask you, are you afraid of those being taken away from you? Because I am. I love playing in the front yard with my 3-year-old nephew, fishing in the pond behind our house with my dad, sitting on the deck watching the sunset with my mom are memories I'll cherish forever. We moved out here for peace and quiet, and all this life that we have lived can be taken away for one man's gain. The amount of water removed will dry up our pond and kill the fish in it. 4th of July barbecue will never be the same without an area for me and my cousins to swim. Sunsets will be blocked by machinery, and with dangerous chemicals floating around in the air, it would not be fair to play outside with my little nephew. The chance of making timeless memories will be stolen. So I ask you, would you want your family 119 yards from a concrete ready-mix plant? This plant does not affect those in this room, but all those families that are listed outside. And it also extends to our family that we love and care about. Please vote no on the plant. Save our home, our natural resources, and our family tradition and values. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir.
When are you going to start the timer?
Right now.
Okay, I'm Ken Merritt. I live at 7516 North Hill Road. Points. Zoning hearing, November 21st. A resident asked a question if the concrete plant will affect nearby property values. Mr. Gavers testified with, quote, "I don't see property values changing." Mr. Gavers did not testify as being a professional with a license to appraise and sell real estate. There were no real estate experts testifying to the answer to this question. The industrial operation of the concrete plant is incompatible with the area and houses along a maple immediately to the east of the applicant's property. Why so? McHenry County Planning and Development has a section titled FAQ with a question, what is zoning? They answer, the purpose of zoning is to prevent incompatible land uses from being sited too close to each other, such as heavy industrial use next to a residential neighborhood, unquote. The ready-mix plant would be industrial. There will be 60 trucks coming and going, incoming and outgoing from this plant. On November 21, 2024 meeting and today, a lady from your staff showed a color chart and it indicated 2 properties immediately west of the subject property as shown for earth extraction. When I looked at the McHenry County records under the treasurer's website, it shows for 1 property, no permit is there to mine. And below that, it shows permit to mine was voided. So that map that you showed was incorrect, fraudulent. The application doesn't abide to the McHenry County 2030 land use plant in that shows a map and it shows an industrial corridor along 23, which is its current use. It does not show on the applicant's property area as that with a purple color being for office, research, and industrial. So it's violating the 2030 land use plan. Finally, the opening part back in November 21st shows that the distance from the top of the property of the 111 acres is 1,475 feet. I measured 2,430 feet using the McHenry County Athena Property Search Viewer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman in the yellow shirt.
I'm nervous.
I'm so sorry. It's all right, breathe.
I'm Russell Palmer, live on 8703 Maple Street. I am the exception, the property owner of the 5-acre parcel that the petitioner has marked as an exception on their exhibits and plan of survey. That doesn't want you to know that it is my home where I have lived for more than 40 years, many years before this petitioner purchased the property. I will be surrounded on 3 sides of this proposed gravel operation that some of you thought was a cemetery. And how would you have known? It is not marked as a home on any of their materials. I wonder why. I am here today to request that you do not recommend this petition for renewal of the CUP to the county board for the mining operation and the ready mix plant, because it does not meet the standards for conditional use, Bible 2.3 on at least 3 standards, compatible with existing or future development of the area. Industrial commercial is not in the neighborhood. It is located over on Route 23, where there are at least 3 other gravel pits operating and a ready mix plant. As to the ready mix plant, the petitioner is requesting, in the CUP of 2003, it was voted down 7-0 to deny a recommendation to the county board. And now we have the Route 23 interchange. Do we really want to welcome people into our county with yet another gravel pit for them to see? Residential is the future. Injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity. Being that petitioner's own witness could not give a clear answer as to the noise levels and how it would affect neighboring homes. And that will not substantially diminish or impair property value. I think we can all agree that this would have a devastating effect to the value of my property and all others that can't be denied. I have lived on this property for 40+ years. I know back in the 80s and 90s, directly behind me would be a large flood area with the spring rains and other large rainfalls. That Mr. Metcalf, the previous owner of the property, had drainage tiles installed in the field that took care of most of that flooding. I see in the report from Montgomery County Soil and Water that a drain survey is recommended to determine the location and extent of tiles. It is imperative that these drainage tiles remain undisturbed or rerouted. I wonder if that survey was ever completed. Whatever your decision is to recommend the petition to the county board or not, I hope you do not. I request you add conditions that were in the first CUP in 2003 as to the home value guarantee that the property would not depreciate because of the operations of Maple Valley Materials. Being that petitioner, his lawyer and witness testified my property would not be affected, they should have no disagreement and agree to this condition. Also, the berm surrounding my property be placed at least 75 feet from my property lines to the closest base of the berm. That the berms be not less than 12 feet in height, planted with 2 rows of conifer trees, not less than 8 feet in height at time of planting, staggered 12-foot centers, 1 row on top of the berm, and the other row planted halfway down the berm, facing my property.
Time is up, sir. You can give that to someone else.
Okay. I only got I got 4 lines.
Wait, Dwight's got you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dwight.
Just blames.
You have to say your name.
Okay, my name's Dwight McKinney. I live at 20307 West Coral Road. Planting staggered on 12-foot centers, 1 row on top of the berm, the other row planted halfway down the berm facing my property, maintaining the berm by moving and replacing trees. If they should be damaged or die, also have the option to have the berms removed from around the property when I feel they are no longer necessary. Also include condition number 27 as to the installation of the new well on the property that the petitioner has accepted. In addition to these things, if we're talking about a conditional use permit, as somebody who has been to zoning meetings frequently because I work in retail construction, would the property be returned at the end of the conditional use permit to its existing condition? Seems to me we're really not talking about a conditional use permit here. We're talking about full rezoning. Because a conditional use permit, in all the times that I have had to go for them, was, oh, this is a retail area, no sidewalk displays. Well, we want a conditional use so we can put riding mowers and log splitters out on the sidewalk because it'll fit inside the building. Okay, that's a conditional use. It doesn't actually change the property. You're talking about going from agricultural to mining. We're not really talking about conditional use here.
So that's
We're
the way
talking
the
about
county
a permanent
defines
change.
it. That's what the county has defined. We go with what the county has, the ordinance the county has defined.
Okay, But is this not the meeting that gets referred to the county that makes that definition? So my statement is still there. Okay,
Go ahead and
the conditional use permit really isn't what we should be talking about here. This is a rezoning. Because if any use outside of agricultural is done at the end of the conditional use, then that needs to be returned fully to tillable land as it is today, with the same draining, the same level, the same elevations. I don't see that as being part of this, but if that were a requirement, then suddenly the cost goes up and his property value would go down, because anybody taking that would then have to incur the cost of hauling all the dirt back in. No, there's too much damage here to the environment, to housing properties, as many have stated, and as we have an expert who does housing values has stated, this is negative, it is not consistent with the local planning, it is not consistent with the future zoning the county has already enacted. Therefore, we respectfully request that this be denied and never allowed to be brought up again.
Okay, anybody else? Ma'am, you at the Pink Vest.
My name is Jacqueline Mitzelfeld, and I live at 20718 West Coral Road. I am a poultry farmer, I'm a beekeeper, and we have plans to return cattle to our farm this year. I've been a proud member of this community for decades. My family has lived here since the early 50s. So I've seen firsthand the long-term impact of decisions regarding our land, water, and safety. Today I stand before you to urge the rejection of this permit application, which jeopardizes not only our environment, but the well-being of every family in this community and this room. Our history is riddled with examples of businesses neglecting their responsibilities and zoning boards not following up while contaminating our water supply. One glaring case is Arnold's Engineering, which in 2013 was charged after decades of polluting groundwater of residents' wells with carcinogens. They were ordered to deliver bottled water, conduct tests to determine the severity of the contamination, and connect each resident to city water. Yet in 2021, they faced charges again for failing to follow through on all of these orders. This history serves as a warning. Once contamination occurs, it's nearly impossible to undo the damage. Allowing development in an area with known high contamination potential risks is repeating this pattern. I assume you have all received the report from the Water and Soil Conservation regarding Gavers property that just came in. The Water and Soil Conservation report provides clear guidance that this land is best suited for farmland and is situated on Sarah soil, which is high potential for contamination. Not possible, not low, but high. Approving this permit would mean ignoring these expert findings and claiming to know better than professionals who specialize in protecting our resources. This property is across the street from a subdivision and located on an aquifer. It's simply the wrong place for this kind of development. Additionally, we have credible information suggesting that this property is already lined up for sale with a buyer ready to take over as soon as the permit is approved. That means any promises made now are irrelevant if the new owner doesn't uphold them. And let's not forget the influence of donations. We've all given back to this community in different ways, but we must not let one man's wealth outweigh the safety and health of an entire community. I come from a family of truck drivers, union workers, and concrete workers. I myself got my CDL in 2016. I support construction and blue-collar jobs wholeheartedly, but there's a right place for these projects, and this property on an aquifer near our homes is not it. Please do not repeat the mistakes of the past. Prioritize the welfare of our families and the integrity of our environment, and say no to this permit.
Anyone else? The lady over here.
Hi, my name is Kathy Bauman. I live at 8408 Maple Street, which is across from the proposed mining and concrete plant. I urge you to reject the renewal of the conditional use permit. Approving this would devastate my family, my neighbors, and the 180 plus families who call this area home. Maple Street is not Route 23. Route 23 is lined with gravel pits and industrial sites. It's built for this kind of activity. Maple Street is a residential and agricultural community. Over the past 20 years, Maple Street has transformed into a thriving residential community. Farms, family homes, and open space define this area. Families live here, kids play outside, people jog, walk their dogs, and some even ride their horses on Maple Street. This is where we live, this is our home. This is not where industry belongs. The health risks alone are alarming. Gravel mining and concrete production release dust and silica, which is a known carcinogen causing long-term health issues. These pollutants will settle into the air we breathe, increasing risks for respiratory illnesses, especially for children and the elderly. None of us should need to wear masks on our own property to feel safe. Then there's the noise. The heavy machinery, concrete mixers, and trucks running by every 6 minutes will destroy the peace and quiet that we all cherish. We do already hear noise from Route 23, but at least it's distant. Bringing that level of industrial chaos right to our doorstep would shatter the peace and quiet where we moved here to enjoy. Maple Street is a country road. It's not a highway. Adding industrial traffic makes Maple Street unsafe for everyone who uses it for recreations. Water contamination is another major issue. The proposed site is in a sensitive aquifer recharge area, putting our wells and ponds at risks. Mining can stir up sediments, lower water levels, and disrupt ecosystems. This area is already facing drought conditions. How much more strain can we put on our water resources? Let's not forget our property values. No one wants to live near a mining and concrete plant. Families who've invested their lives here will see their homes lose value and will struggle to sell if they ever need to move. This is not just about one business. This is about the well-being of over 180 families. Route 23 has the infrastructure for industrial activity. Maple Street does not. This proposal sacrifices our health, safety, and quality of life for financial gains that benefits only one company. Please keep the industrial operations where they belong, on Route 23. Protect our community, our homes, and the future by rejecting this permit. The health and financial risks to over 180 families is just not comparable to the financial gain of the petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kathy Streit. I live at 20306 Demings, directly across from the property. These are all my cited sources. We, the residents of Marengo, are bringing many very valid concerns before you, and before I get into it, I want to thank you all for your very careful and thoughtful consideration of each and every one of them. It is the responsibility of the Planning Commission to ensure the public health and the welfare of the residents. In fact, this responsibility is highlighted as the very first condition within the Special Use Ordinance SEC 15-03.01, which explicitly state that the Planning Commission's very first obligation is to ensure that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, comfort, or general welfare, nor substantially diminish or impair the value of property. A concrete batch plant's #1 source of emission is fine particulate matter. This pollutant is termed PM 2.5 and has long been established as having negative health effects of populations that are regularly exposed to breathing it in. This is not dust. It cannot be rinsed away. This is, however, 1/20th the size of the diameter of a hair, a human hair, and not visible without an electron microscope. But just because we can't see it does not mean we will not be forced to breathe it in. Many reputable sources agree that even short-term exposure to PM 2.5 pollution correlates with serious adverse health effects. If I were to cite all of those conditions, it would take my entire 3 minutes. But the construction and operation of the proposed plant would not be short-term. Instead, for those of us living near the plant, including children that attend Riley School, mine included, which is approximately 2 miles away, we would experience chronic exposure to those lists, and that list is even longer than the short term. Those who live near the emission source are even more vulnerable. According to the demographic reports, 500 people live within 1 mile of the proposed location, and that number increases to 12,000 people when you look within 5 miles. In both of those cases, almost 50% of that population meet the criteria of high risk, which includes infants, children, teens, and those over 65. The EPA updated the National Ambient Air Quality Standards to decrease the public standard to 9.0 micrograms per cubic meter of this harmful pollutant. That's the maximum level of background concentration of this pollutant that we can breathe in before scientific evidence has shown it to be hazardous to human health. In March of 2024, Marengo, Illinois has an average background ambient concentration of 8.93 micrograms per cubic meter. That's less than 1/10 the maximum level. It is unreasonable to assume that the industrial manufacturing facility will not increase this value. If special use permit application is approved at this time, it will be because the commission has failed to take responsibility for their very first obligation. This plant will create an increase in the pollutant exposure for the residents of Marengo and those of us living in the vicinity of the plant. You simply cannot guarantee that our families will not be detrimentally affected by the proposed use. I have one more sentence, I don't know if you want me to.
No.
Additionally, the applicant has failed to meet the conditions of previous special use, and therefore I sincerely request that you deny not only the land use permit, but the addition of the batch plant. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Patricia Gambino. I live at 20419 Delks Drive, which is 3 lots west of Maple Street and the proposed concrete plant location. 6 years ago, my husband and I decided to invest all of our financial savings into building a home to live out our retirement with my daughter. A retirement to the country after spending a lifetime in the hustle and bustle of the city of Chicago. During the process of building my home, my husband passed away and was never able to see the final result. It's been a few years and I have found a great love for this community. It is quiet, peaceful, and full of nature and wildlife. I spend most of my summer sitting in the backyard, looking at the sunsets, waiting for deer to pass, and enjoying the wildlife. It has been 2 full years of peaceful retirement in our home with my daughter. Today, I find myself here in a fight to save some of these things. I never imagined we'd move to a small town amongst great families and homes and then find out that 50 or more trucks could be barreling down our street. I can't imagine a scenario where that could happen. This is Maple Street, farmland with homes and more homes coming each month. This is not Industrial Parkway. It is Maple Street, a place for families. The health risks and financial impact of over 180 families is simply not comparable to the financial gain of the petitioner. I urge you to reject this petition and protect our peaceful neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Novolinsky. I live at 9206 South Hill Road, directly across from where this proposed quarry will be. I compliment my neighbors on their research and their well thought out comments. I will try not to be duplicating too much of it, but I do have a couple things I just wanted to mention. The number of homes built in the neighborhood surrounding the proposed quarry is a significant change since the previous CUP approval. We have watched 5 homes go up, including ours, in just the last 3 years, which is a long time since the last approval. Additional homes are currently under construction, and just in the Riley Creek subdivision, where my wife and I built, 13 lots have sold in the last 13 months. There are now only 3 unsold lots left in the original 42 home sites. It's a big change. There are hundreds of more existing homes with private wells in the area. I agree with the noise, and not only the noise from the trucks, but the pollution from the exhaust and the fumes. We actually hear the noise of heavy equipment coming down Maple Street before we even see what's coming. Sometimes we guess, is it a farm equipment, is it a big truck? The noise is there, it's only gonna get worse. They talked about the prevailing winds blowing from west to east. Our property will receive that, and the dust, you need a microscope to see the particles of dust. And we learned on the last meeting that the gravel that is too big to be processed is going to be crushed on site. Silica dust then is how it's formed from the mining and the crushing. The CDC warns that silica dust can cause silicosis, damaging your lungs, making it hard to breathe and increasing the risk of lung infections. It can also lead to heart failure and cancer. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified silica dust as a group 1 carcinogen, meaning it is a definite cause of cancer in humans. The dust, including the microscopic cilia, will ride the winds into the homes and lungs of my neighbors, my family, my pets, and me. It impacts our health. I urge you, with those and the other comments, to decline this request.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, sir.
live at 8613 South Hill Road. My name's Kyle Anderson. I just want to make a couple points about the actual concrete plant. When it comes to concrete plant, especially with the winds that will be there, they have dust prevention systems, but they don't work when it's a high wind area, especially being all prairie, like very flat in that area. The other problem is like a washout pit that every concrete plant has. There's there's so many different chemicals that go in the concrete just for trying to stop it from hardening. Stuff when it gets cold out. There's all these different chemicals, and when the truck comes back to wash out, everything gets put into that, on that batch, and then it gets dumped out. And where is that going to go? It's all going to go eventually when you have a gravel pit right next door, or right next to it. It's all going to go seep down into the water system and contaminate our water. That's one thing I want to say about that.
There's a woman, yes, wanted to speak.
Hi, I'm Ann Stone. My family and I live at 8508 Maple Street. I just wanted to call out some of the big ideas that are 2030 and beyond. It's only a few years away. A couple of things that I felt like are impactful were, one, to make transportation safer. Let's make our communities healthy, active, and green. Our communities, I'm just shortening these, communities can also benefit from improved stormwater management, water quality, and replenishment of our aquifers. We can make it happen by the health of our county is tied directly to our groundwater, which we rely upon as our only source of drinking water. In turn, the quality of our groundwater depends on water recharge areas, clean lakes, rivers, and streams. Again, we can make it happen by promoting development that is compact, contiguous, or located within municipalities in order to preserve rural landscapes, which is the area where we are, very much rural. Additionally, conducting health impact assessments with respects toward land use, transportation, etc. Regarding social importance of our agriculture industry, farm fields are a part of a tradition spanning more than 150 years in McHenry County that today brings nearly $200 million a year into our local economy while helping to fuel not only the world, but of course our area. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Jackie Mitzelfeld. I live at 7619 South Illinois Route 23. It's not even on that map. I'm her father. If there's confusion in the name. My neighbors have eloquently told you how every aspect of this is a bad idea. It is terrible. Except for one aspect. Money. And that's what it boils down to. I'm a disabled veteran. In 1986, I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of this country. The authors of that Constitution are brilliant men. And they put in that Constitution checks and balances in this country over 200 years ago. You are those checks and balances. The very three words of that are we the people. It's everybody in this room. Please, for all of our sake, do not put profits over people. Seems to be a trend in this country, and we're getting tired of it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
My name's Shauna Prinzlock, and I'm at 7.
Come up, please. Come up here.
Because I have cheerleader voice. Okay.
No, we're recording, so we have this hearing is being recorded. Thank you.
All right.
It's a quasi judicial hearing, as I said before.
I don't even know what that means.
Well,
Okay. My name's Shauna Krenzlock. I'm at 7918 Maple. Joe, Claudia, and I entertain the accidents that happen upon occasion, and we pray at the site where the people are laying and the ambulances are coming. I just wanted to ask a question.
This is not a time for questions. It's
can't-
only comments.
Oh, it's just a comment. Okay, I doubt that any one of you is very familiar with Maple Street. Why would you be? It took me 35 minutes to get here. It's a long way. It's rural. In 2002, it was nothing. Now that we have the interchange and the annex, it's primed for great profit. Our values have gone up incredibly if you've been keeping an angle on it because it's a very, very attractive area. Why, when you hear words like aquifer, poisons, chemicals,
Do you have
traffic?
anything new to add? We've heard all those
Yes, I
things.
do.
Yes,
What
okay,
would
please.
it take as a group of people that are invested and live there to convince you guys that you're being taken advantage of just as much as we are? We're in a Midwest rural community and we're at the corner. We're a no place. We can't do battle against the big guys. We are dependent on you. I don't know what your interest would be in it, but seriously, you probably didn't even know that Maple Street is almost a certified drag race strip. It has been since the early days. We all hear it. We have the rural activity going, but everything that's been said here is the truth, and we are no longer what we were in 2002. It's a whole different area. It's becoming the best part of Marengo, and where people want to live. Big houses, nice houses, and even ones that aren't big and nice are full of big and nice people. And they don't deserve it. For what? For what? So somebody can turn a bigger profit than they're already going to get because of the supreme location? Please, help us out. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, I'm just going to shut it down. You're the last guy. Come on up. Name and address.
My name is Michael Ryan. I'm at 20411 Delks Drive, right about same, we're next to Carmen. And we all of us, this community doesn't even show, this little picture doesn't show everybody that's in the community. You're counting out all these people right here, all these people down here in Halverson and Beck. So the problem we have is you're gonna put something in like that. One, I'm a photographer. I do nighttime photography. I get beautiful skies. We don't have all the dust. It is further away, but it doesn't affect photography at night. Right there, next to our properties, is gonna blow that all out. Not only that, but as everyone else has said, it comes to the health, it comes to our roads. At the end of this road here, what, are they gonna have, they're gonna have one entrance over here, they're gonna probably have another one over here. We got trucks, we got cement trucks, there's gonna be all sorts of,
Do you have anything addition to add to all the things that have been talked?
no, I'm speaking just because I live in this area. I just moved there 2 years ago. Bought the property 5 years ago. A lot of these people in these new areas are expecting to be able to live there without the excessive noise that will come from these plants, especially if they're gonna crash the gravel down and smash it down. Those are loud. It's already loud from over here, we can hear, from Griegels, but the point is that all of us here is a small percentage of the people that actually could make it, of this whole area. And this community can be a great community, and it can continue to be a great community, but not with a gravel plant right outside our doorsteps. Any one of you guys, anybody in the county, try to sell your house after you put up a gravel plant right next to it. That's not gonna happen. We've all invested our money, every ounce of our money, into these houses. And I think everyone deserves their respect for you guys to deny their application.
Okay, at this time then, we'll close the public testimony portion and I will offer the petitioner, if you have any closing remarks, anything that you would like to do before we close.
I do, Madam Chairperson. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Mark Saladin on behalf of the petitioner. We appreciate your time in listening to all of the testimony, including from all of our neighbors. I would like to confirm that the ZBA has received the additional letter from Dr. Thunder relative to this matter, along with his client list, and have that introduced into evidence.
We'll do that.
Thank you. I'd like to confirm the testimony that you heard from our engineer, Jeff Shue, relative to the impact with the Sarah, existence of the Sarah aquifer. And certainly based on Mr. Shue's expertise, there would be no impact relative to that. We wish to remind you that this particular matter has been vetted by the Staff Plat Review Committee, which includes the review of the concrete facility. It's been reviewed by the McHenry County Department of Transportation relative to the road requirements. And we wish to remind you that this is the second renewal, of this particular conditional use permit for earth extraction. So this has been vetted by McHenry County in 2 different occasions. The county zoning maps would adequately show that this is an earth extraction facility and has been that way for over 20 years. We, wish to remind, the committee that the gravel is an extremely valuable commodity in McHenry County and is known for that. One of the reasons that the Sarah District is there because it is gravel. There is gravel adjacent to this property to the west. We believe that the introduction of the concrete facility, based on the evidence that has been presented, that it's a newer type of system, it's an electric system. There's the dust containment provisions relative to the boot that goes there. And the types of trucks that use that material for this site will be used because it is part of the family business that they have. This is not an asphalt plant. It is not a request for concrete recycling or asphalt recycling. Some of the safeguards that are put in place already relative to this matter includes the setback from the road for the mining, the fact that the concrete facility is in the far northwest corner of the property, that there is groundwater monitoring that is already going on in that area. The hours of operation are certainly limited. There's dust control plans, there's spill prevention plans, there's reclamation plans at the end of mining, which require a bond. And there's all of the other conditions that staff has suggested, which I'm sure that you'll go through and approve as we move through this process. This is an industry that is also heavily regulated by not only McHenry County, but also by the state of Illinois with the IEPA, by the Mining and Safe Healthy Administration, and along with OSHA. So there are additional controls that go into this type of a use. There's been discussion of silica. The crushing is only of oversized material, and that basically is almost exclusively carbonate, which is not silica. The standards for issuance of this conditional use permit not only have been met for the renewal at this hearing, but it's been met 2 other times with the county board. This conditional use already exists relative to the neighborhood. Basically, the area that is to the west of us along Route 23, which basically is our neighbor to our west, is an existing gravel pit. So those uses have already been factored into the testimony that you've heard today, including from our noise expert. But what I'd really like to do is to go back 10 years ago, and what I'd like to do is summarize some of the comments that former ZBA member Dave Stone had 10 years ago relative to this project, if you don't mind. And this is out of the transcript of the voting meeting relative to the ZBA from 2013. And as you know, Mr. Stone was not only a member, but at one point he was the chairperson of the ZBA. He basically...
He's a petitioner, he's disclosing testimony.
Unlimited minutes?
Yeah, unlimited, yeah.
Mr. Stone basically indicated that in his mind that this was kind of a westerly expansion of the existing gravel pits that were along Route 23. He indicated that the opponents to the application raised the following concerns, which we have heard today. Proximity to residential neighborhoods, the potential traffic, the problems of noise, potential dust, well contamination. While these concerns are raised in the original application for conditional use, they were also discussed thoroughly in the hearing on the application for renewal as they have been discussed at this time. One of the objectors stated that we as board members ought to decide this application on the basis of whether or not we would want a gravel pit across the street from our homes. Unfortunately, that is not the standard under which we or the county board must operate. Under common law, a landowner was permitted to do whatever he chose with his property. Zoning laws were established more or less in derogation of common law, and as such, they can only make reasonable restraints on the use of one's property in order to promote the general health and welfare of the citizens. Sand and gravel are essential natural resources, and they are by nature limited and located where they are found. The 2030 plan states, the glaciers that shaped the county's landscape also left behind rich deposits of sand and gravel and have proved to be a lucrative economic resource for modern industry. Sand and gravel are used locally and throughout the regions to support the construction industry, and the mining of these resources has been an important component of the McHenry County regional economy. Taking advantage of these valued natural resources must be done in a sensible manner that is respectful of nearby and adjacent residential areas with regards to noise, dust, safety, and truck traffic activities. And again, I quote from Mr. Stone, I note that the 2030 plan clearly anticipates that mining activities can occur adjacent to residential properties. In this case, the mining is not completely adjacent. There's a road of approximately 90 feet in between. The actual mining will take place another setback beyond that. And then we also had our traffic study, which indicated the traffic impact. In addition, and I'd like just to conclude, the county can take actions to remediate and eliminate some of those concerns that the neighbors have, and we've gone through those conditions and we've gone through what other regulations apply to this industry. The issuance, in a quote again, the issue is not whether you can hear a neighbor's activity, it is whether the noise constitutes a nuisance. And Dr. Thunder's report indicates that this would not create a disturbance beyond the state levels that are required. The conditional use will require the washing and screening facility to be on the far west end of the subject property. And the evidence shows that the concern of the residents over their wells is not warranted. And finally, I'd like to basically indicate that the petitioner in the prior hearing had hired an appraiser who did the appraisal of the adjoining property owners relative to the adjacent property values. I would point out that to the county board that this particular petitioner has, in reliance on the conditional use, actually engaged in part performance. He hasn't necessarily just left this lay dormant, unfortunately due to economic circumstances, which we heard testimony from, that we couldn't be able to start the mining. Because we have installed the entry road access, number one, but number two, we gave to the county approximately a little over 1.4 acres of land, giving up a strip of land relative to McDOT's request for a dedication of roadway. So it was Mr. Stone's opinion that he believes that the county board, if the county board did not approve this particular petition, that it's indefensible in a court proceeding. Therefore, he was going to vote in favor of it. You know, in conclusion, I feel that we met the standards that you have. It's not to say that there won't be some dust. It's not to say that there won't be some noise. But it is to say that those will not be unreasonable. And we would ask that you favorably look at this petition when you make your recommendation to the county board. Thank you.
At this time, the hearing portion of this meeting is closed, and we'll move on to the voting portion. Again, this is for application 2023-051. It's a request for a renewal of a conditional use permit 2013-046 to allow earth extraction and adding a ready-mix batch plant in the A1C district. The applicant is Maple Valley Materials LLC. It's located on Maple Street in Marengo, 111-acre tract, located on the west side of Maple Street, approximately 1,475 feet south of the intersection of Maple Street and West Coral Road in Riley Township. If the board has no objections, we will just adopt the conditional use conditions that were in our packet. And you've all had those for a long time. And then I will just read the extra ones that we added that were not in the packet. Is there any objection to anyone on the board?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay, so I will start out with number 27. That's up on the screen. The new 27 will be before an operations permit can be issued by the McHenry County Code Enforcement Officer. Maple Valley Materials LLC shall cause to be installed a new well on the property identified as exception on the plat of survey dated October 11, 2002, signed and sealed by William Vanderstappen. Parcel identification number 1613300004, submitted as part of this conditional use request. The well shall be drilled to provide water of adequate quality and quantity. Number 28, lighting on the property shall be directed so that it falls within the property and so as not to affect the neighboring property, excluding lighting required by the Highway Commissioner for ingress and egress. Number 29, all of the federal, state, and local laws shall be met. And number 30, the owner and/or operator shall erect a sign at the exit of the property reminding truck operators to adhere to designated truck routes. Said sign shall be erected within 3 months of issuance of an operations permit and shall remain clearly visible during the duration of this conditional use permit. Are there any other proposed conditions?
No.
By this board?
Madam Chairman, I move acceptance of the conditions as presented.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Eldridge to accept the conditions. Second by Ms. Donner. Are there any discussions on the conditions? Then I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gartner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Yes.
Mr. Kernick?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So the conditions are approved 7-0. At this time, I would take a motion on the
Madam Chairman, I
conditions.
move acceptance of the petition subject to the conditions.
Been moved by Mr. Eldridge to accept the petition. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Eldridge and second by Ms. Gartner. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Madam Chair, I'd like a motion to amend the motion to delete the reference to or approval of the ready-mix plant so that we're only voting on the quarry and mining operation portion. Because I think those matters should be voted on separately.
Is there a second to the motion?
I will amend my motion
And
if
I'll
the second.
second the amendment if it's permitted.
Oh, I think it's permitted.
That satisfies me, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, will there be discussion on this before we?
Yes, yes. So before us is an amendment to the recommendation to approve the total petition and that we were going to separate to allow a vote on the earth extraction and a separate vote on the ready mixed batch plant.
Since I'm neither moved or second, I'd be interested to hear the discussion on the need to separate this matter at this time.
Mr. Kernick, would you like to address that?
The principal reason is the addition of the ready-mix plant at this site is an expansion of the use, clearly. And I don't feel, as I indicated at our last meeting, I have some serious questions about the noise aspect, given the addition of the ready mix plant. And in particular, it was the report of Mr. Thunder, and referring to page 7 of his report, talks about the perception. There's a table 2 that talks about perceptual difference as a function of the decibel increase. And it notes here that if there's a decibel increase between 7 and 8, that's strongly noticeable, and the impact is considered moderate. Here on the page, referring to that table, it states, these impact levels can be seen in table 2. We would consider noise to be, quote, injurious, close quote, for moderate or substantial impacts. That is levels at 7 dB above the ambient or greater. Table 3 shows that ambient increases, shows a difference at noon of 8 decibels. According to Mr. Thunder's own report, that is, quote, injurious, close quote, to the people. And under our ordinance, one of the aspects under our ordinance, section 16.20.040E4, is that petitioner has to show that the conditional use shall not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property. I think that the petitioner's own testimony shows that at least the noise level would be injurious. I looked at the addendum or the additional report that we received, and this is a document that we received that was at least dated January 2 of 2025, which addresses the concern that I expressed at the last meeting. And all it says, this is on page 2 of that, number 5A, it just concludes that the 8 decibel increase in audibility is due to the low background measured in February, which is likely conservative compared to summer months. Well, what about other months such as January, such as December, such as March, such as months that are not summer months? So I don't think the petitioner's carried his burden to show that the noise level increase as a result of this operation is not injurious to the neighbors. And that's the reason for my separate consideration.
Okay, thank you. So the vote before us is to separate the two into 2 separate votes. So I'll call for the vote on that. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
No.
Ms. Donner?
Yes.
Mr. Koenig?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So it's 6-1 to separate the 2, so we will be separating the 2. So I will go to a motion, first of all, on the renewal. Do I have a motion for the renewal of the earth extraction?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Eldridge, second by Ms. Donner. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Yes. Earth extraction is, in terms of its history in McHenry County, second only to agriculture as the oldest business that has been significant in the county. As Mr. Saladin pointed out, not very many years ago, there were a lot more gravel pits than there are now. And when I was a child in this county, a great many years ago, virtually every farm had its own barrel gravel pit for its own use and the use of neighbors who might not have as much gravel as they wished. This county has been blessed with being a location of a lot of gravel. And the gravel industry provides lots of jobs and very good jobs, mostly skilled jobs. This corridor in particular, on both sides of Route 23, has been an area for gravel extraction really long before any of these people in the audience or most anybody who lived in McHenry County moved here. Most of the people who are in the audience, by their own admission, live on a reclaimed gravel pit, which is where the subdivision across the street is. People have been concerned about the fact that this is a SARA area and a potential for contamination, and that is true of everywhere gravel is located. Gravel by its nature transmits water to the aquifer very much more rapidly and thoroughly than other kinds of soil do. However, 25 years ago, this county adopted a very stringent set of rules for monitoring the groundwater and protecting the groundwater from contamination as a result of gravel pits. And since that time, there's been virtually no issue at any gravel pit in the county, whether unincorporated or incorporated, because of those regulations at the county level and at the state level. And this was jointly done by the gravel industry, the EPA, the county, and has, in my view, worked extraordinarily well. In particular, the Gabbers establishment have a very good reputation in their industry as being good operators who follow the law, do not get cited, and are good at operating it. Any kind of rudimentary due diligence on the part of people who've moved to the area of Maple Street in the last 40 years would have indicated that there was a great deal of gravel mining going on. Anybody who's moved in the last 20 plus years with the very most minimal exploration would have found that this site had the right to mine for gravel at any time it chose. Asking us to deny this petition is not asking us to protect their land values. It is asking us to take something away from Maple Valley Mining that it has had the right to do for 20 years without going forward. To my mind, a conditional use that has not been violated, that has been with a company that has consistently followed the law for our time, should be renewed. The fact that more people have moved in, I don't believe that people have the right to dictate the use of the guy next door's property. Should be what they want it to be for the rest of eternity. They have the right.
Quiet, please.
If they wish to have that control, they should buy the land. For all of these reasons, I am going to support this petition.
Ms. Garter.
In 1974, my husband and I bought a house that we knew was on a landfill. And the landfill continued on behind our house. It was an old landfill and it wasn't in use anymore. But we always knew that at some point that landfill could be opened again and used again. And guess what? It was. It wasn't a horrible thing. We knew all along that that was there. We knew all along there was that possibility. The houses that live along this area knew or should have known all along that that land next to them was a gravel pit, or at least slated to be. And there was always that possibility that it could be a gravel pit. Gravel pits, I would rather live by a gravel pit than a garbage dump.
Get by my house.
Stop.
You may not talk, it's my turn. I really like all your respect. Gravel pits are actually quite clean and they're quite quiet. We as a group, the zoning board itself, we're not the planning commission, we are the zoning board of appeals, traveled to 5 or 6 different gravel pits during operating hours and saw what was going on. You know what's going on because you live there. So knowing that this has been there before you built your house probably, I have to say that was your choice to buy that house. Yes, it was beautiful, just like mine was for years. There were deer back there and all kinds of nice things, but then there was a landfill again. So I have to say that that is not coming into my consideration for my vote. My vote will be in favor of the landfill. Thank you. There you go. No, please, for the mining operation.
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For purposes of clarity of my remarks, it should begin by noting that we are not a legislative body, but follow the rules that are provided to us in the approval standards of the conditional use permit. And specifically to those rules are number 2, which is the compatibility to existing conditions. My seat here in the ZBA as appointed is representing Algonquin Township. As far as some have spoken, this seat is to where your homes are. And Algonquin Township is also a place in the county with numerous active and inactive gravel pits. In fact, when the federal government did the land inventory in 1836 through that area, there was only one open body of water identified, and that was Crystal Lake. Today, every body of water that you see within that 36 square miles is either the result of redirection, impoundment, or gravel extraction. One gravel pit is now a civic betterment known as 3 Oaks. Another has recently been opened as Rotary Park, and yet gravel mining still occurs within my township. But before I am corrected to turn my attention to Marengo Township, which as I have been sitting here listening and appreciating those concerns, I note the history that my colleague has spoken to and found that history clearly documented in the public record that was accessible to all of us. Specifically, the USGS topographical map cited in the natural resource opinion. On page 384 of 400. That map clearly shows that a gravel pit was in operation on the west side of Maple Street in 1965. That gravel pit was in existence, photographed by the USGS in 1965, documented in 1968, and put out in publication in 1971, and was used as reference in this public record, as well as the establishment of the roads both to the north, being Demings Drive and Delke, and excuse my mispronunciation, to the south. But it's not the only addition to what is compatible to the area. For as the growth occurred in Algonquin Township, so is the growth documented in Marengo South by another public document. and that is the published well logs from the Illinois State Health Department. The public well logs show that in 2013, there was recorded 164 approximate wells within this affected area. Of those, 85 were within 1 mile of the gravel operations, whether on State Route 23 or County Route Maple Street. And the CU was approved in 2003. So for 10 years prior, new wells went in or wells documented by it during the operation of an existing gravel pit. In 2023, 10 years after the renewal of the second conditional use, 52 new wells, residential wells went in, 31 of them within 1 mile of this affected area. The public record clearly shows that there is a trend of development and not incompatible to the existing development that exists between the mining extraction and the other uses within Marengo South. Finally, to my last point, is substantially diminished. It is a most troublesome one, as one in Algonquin Township, seeing along Virginia and Piatt gravel trucks. But I would be remiss if I would seek the advice of council to be directed that somehow my quiet enjoyment, whether it's in your township or Algonquin Township, is substantially diminished by other lawfully regulated uses in that area. And for those reasons, I'll be supporting this petition.
Mr. Schnabel.
I will support this revised petition for earth extraction, gravel extraction only at this point. That's all. Next.
Okay.
Ms. Donner.
They've said everything that I would have said. I was years ago involved in situations with gravel pits as a paralegal. So these are not uncommon comments. I have to agree with those who have come before me. They've said it more eloquently than I could have.
Mr. Kernick.
I will be voting in favor of the amended petition as well. The question was asked when the comment was made that we sit here in a quasi-judicial capacity. What that quasi-judicial means is we sit here as judges. I live in Grafton Township, and unlike one of my colleagues, I don't believe we have any mining operations there. But we're called to decide this case based upon the evidence that's presented to us, plus deciding this case based upon any facts of which we can take judicial notice. The things that Mr. Kozin talked about and my other colleague mentioned, Charlie, are things that we can take judicial notice of in deciding this case. So even though in Grafton Township I may not have any exposure to mining operations, in deciding the facts that were presented here, I've concluded that, at least as to the quarrying operations, the petitioner has sustained their burden and established that they have proved all of the elements that are required for us to act favorably in connection with that petition. If we were acting 20 years ago, and if this had not been a use that had been legally established, maybe our decision at this point in time would be different. But the fact is, we don't decide this case based upon a clean state. We decide this case based upon the fact that the use for which the petitioner is asking an extension of the conditional use is a use that the county board determined is legal. And as one comment was made, if you don't like what your neighbor is doing legally, go ahead and buy the property. Those are my only comments.
And I agree with the comments of my colleagues. I'm in favor of the renewal of earth extraction. So I will call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge.
Yes.
Ms. Gartner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Kernick?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So the renewal is approved 7-0. At this time, I would take a motion for the approval of the concrete batch plant.
Madam Chairman, I move approval of the concrete batch plant.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Eldridge, seconded by Ms. Donner to approve the concrete batch plant. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Yes, I think this is a much closer question. I feel that Mr. Kernick's comment that a much more robust response to our questions about noise would have been helpful to us. And I think that perhaps my view is to some extent colored by the fact that I have lived on US 12 at a very busy intersection my entire life, and I'm perhaps less concerned about noise than some other people. And I've found, both from that and from the times I lived in large cities, that things like the noise of the concrete batch plant become just background very rapidly, although they may be startling to someone who hasn't heard it before. Having said that, I do believe that this is, well, I think we need to distinguish between the noise created by the batch plant and the noise created by the gravel operation. I think that the addition of the batch plant noise is not insignificant, but not enormous. I think that the people who will be distressed by this are going to be distressed by gravel trucks in any case. I don't much like gravel trucks. Over my lifetime, I've lost about 50 windshields to pebbles coming off of them over the 70 years or so I've been driving. I would note that when I was a young fella, they didn't really enforce things like driver's licenses. So it was quite typical for me and my compatriots at 10 or 12 years old to be driving the family vehicle, at least around the neighborhood. Actually, it wasn't unheard of to see a 6 or 7 year old on a couple of phone books operating the family truck. That aside, I believe that this has been located in the best location possible in terms of the neighbors on the site. I think that the control of the of dust and noise is as modern as it can be, and I believe that there is a deficiency of these plants in McHenry County, particularly other than the hegemon in concrete in the northwest suburbs generally, other than those owned by Ozinga. And so while I have some questions, I am going to support this.
Ms. Great.
Thank you. I'd like to tell the petitioner I do appreciate the placement that you have planned for that concrete plant as far away as possible from residences. However, I am concerned about the noise. I am concerned with the noise study. I looked through the long list of clients that Mr. Thunder supplied with his report, and none of those clients had a concrete plant. And in my own research that I have done in the last few weeks over this, it seems to me that concrete plants are extremely loud. And even if you're far away from it, the farthest part of that that particular property, I still think it's gonna be an annoyance. I cannot, that and the increased traffic from that, I find I can't vote in favor of that part of it. I'm glad that the vote was split. Thank you.
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you. I appreciate the prior discussion because it brought into focus what was immediately a distraction, the detail of the gravel pit operation, the established history of the operator, the record, exemplary record of the operator, to a new use being a batch plant. And I do not see any specificity in the conditions, even with their length now at 30, that go to the batch plant. In fact, the word batch plant, ready mix batch plant, does not appear specifically in that, and I will stand corrected. Nonetheless, given its absence, and it is not something that can be easily overlooked in operation, whether on site or along Maple Avenue, I will not be supporting the addition to this petition.
Mr. Schnabel.
There's a lot that can be said here. It's a lot that's already been said here today, a lot of it which I happen to agree with. But throughout my conclusion to all of this is, with the cement batch plant, we have one on Route 23 already by Ozinga. It's much larger operation than what Mr. Gavers is alluding to, the fact that he'd like to at least initially start with. My grave concern is the Ozinga plant on Route 23 is a giant ball of giant white dust every time you drive down Route 23, assuming it hasn't been raining. I cannot take my clean car, I live on the other side of the tollway, I can't take my car and drive it there. I have to go down Maple to keep my car clean if I want to go to Marengo and pick up prescriptions or go to Sullivan's or what have you. So I'm very leery of the dirt and stuff that could be dragged out onto Maple. I'm not saying that it would be, but I'm gravely concerned that it could be. But my biggest obstacle at all to voting in favor of this proposal would be the unknown increase in the volume of water used, you know, the wells, the drainage, that whole discussion. And my greatest concern of all that has been brought up here today is, if we approve this and it's not in a light industrial district like Ozinga currently is, without State Highway 23 road access, which is greatly preferable to that of Maple, especially for operations such as that, I'm greatly concerned that property could go back up for sale, assuming we get the batch plant use approved, be sold to someone else and turned into a much larger operation, and we just can't have that. So for that reason, I will not support this petition for the batch plant.
Ms. Dunn.
My concerns would have been if it was an asphalt batch plant. I will be voting in favor along with Mr. Eldridge.
Mr. Koenig.
I agree with a lot of the facts that my colleagues have pointed out. My colleague Eldridge mentioned that perhaps he got used to the noise in his life, and that may shade his decision somewhat. I grew up in Chicago, and for quite a while I lived on Archer Avenue with CTA buses going back and forth all the time. I got used to noise, but whether I'm used to noise or whether Mr. Eldridge is used to noise or desensitized, that shouldn't enter the picture today. It should be how a reasonable person would react to this. As I think everyone's gathered, I was concerned really only about the noise aspect. And I tried to get some answers, and Mr. Thunder attempted to give me answers in his January 2 rebuttal, if you will. And you know, one issue was, can we separate the noise generated by the batch plant from the noise generated by the operation. And I asked, I said, you know, we've got, at least as it relates solely to the batch plant, we had a noise level for filling of the concrete truck of 76 dBs and of washing the concrete trucks 70 dBs. And I asked, how do they add up arithmetically? And all Mr. Thunder said is, he says, no, they add logarithmically. And instead of addressing my, you know, what is that issue in this case, 70 and 76 dBs, he came up with a hypothetical. He said, well, let's talk about what would happen if we had 50 dBs and 100 dBs. Well, that was not my question. So he has not, in my view, presented any evidence to show that this would not be injurious. I pointed out, and I would just like to point out to the board, the county board, when they addressed this, is, as I said, page 7 of the report, of his original report, where it points out that when we look at a difference in the ambient at noon, any difference in dB levels of 7 or 8 can be considered injurious. In his report, he says, at noon, the sound levels caused the difference in ambient versus what's generated by this operation is going to be in the 7 to 8 range, and that is, quote, injurious. That's what his report says. So, for those reasons, I am not in favor of granting the use, at least as far as the batch plant operation. And I say that based upon this state of the record, what's before me on the record. I don't know what the record will be before the county board. I don't know to what extent you can supplement the record before the county board beyond what you've presented here. But as they say, a word to the wise.
And my comments would be, I understand the concerns of noise, but I'm feeling like there's noise already with earth extraction, and I feel like we have to have concrete batch plants in order to provide the need for the public. And it just makes a much more efficient use to have it right where the gravel is being extracted. And I think the location of this in the farthest northwest corner, farthest away from people that are living across the street in rural subdivisions, rural locations. I'm used to noise too because I am a retired farmer, and grain dryers and dairy cattle and all the tractors that we dealt with, and this is zoned agriculture, and you could easily have all that noise across the road. That I just feel like it just makes sense as part of a gravel extraction to have a concrete batch plant located there, and so I'm going to be in favor of the request.
Madam Chair, can I just add one comment I forgot
Yes,
to
you may.
make? Just to echo what Madam Chair said, I agree that this makes the most sense to locate a concrete batch plant. In order to avoid trucks going and delivering the gravel one place, taking it someplace else and make concrete, this makes eminent sense. And for me, this was just a very close question. That's all I wanted to add.
You know how concrete's made, sir? If you're talking, we'll call security and you'll have to leave. There's no time for anyone to talk.
Okay.
So you can either be quiet or you can leave. I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner? No. Mr. Cozen?
No.
Mr. Schnabel?
No.
Ms. Donner? Aye. Mr. Kernick?
No.
And I will vote yes. So this goes to the county board with a 3 to 4 vote, 3 ayes, 4 nays.
That's no recommendation.
And that is no recommendation.
Yes.
So the county board will have to decide this.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much.
So at this time, the hearing is closed.
So, before we actually dismiss it entirely, for the public information, and for the applicant's information, this would likely go to the